Hi there, my name is Alison Cosgrave and I am one of the co-authors of Politics and Society Now. I have chosen to chat you through Chapter 7, which looks at key arguments concerning representation. This chapter focuses on learning outcomes 2.4 and 2.5. Both of these learning outcomes look at the wider idea of representation and the effectiveness of representation within our government. I have chosen this chapter and learning outcomes as they can often be a tricky one for teachers to teach in a concrete manner. In this chapter, we can see how learning outcomes can be drawn in across the specification from the whole 2 years of the Politics and Society course, hopefully making teachers' jobs that little bit easier. What we have chosen to do within this chapter is draw students back to the idea of arguments concerning representation, which they would have been presented with at the beginning of the 5th year course, highlighting how students can pull examples from various sections within the book. This chapter highlights a key feature of the textbook, the use of case studies. Case studies are a great way for students to gather contemporary evidence, which they can then use in their discursive essays. It is also a meaningful way for students to see how links can be made across the specification and course. The case study in question for this chapter, which allows students to discuss and debate the idea of effective representation, is direct provision in Ireland. This is a case study that can then be used in multiple other learning outcomes and chapters. For example, it can be used again when looking at the idea of human rights, and later on in 6th year when looking at the concept of identity and culture. An additional key feature of this chapter is showing students how many different key thinkers can be used to debate the idea of direct provision. We do this by providing images of relevant key thinkers and a small sentence on their views in order to stimulate conversation and ideas for students. The final feature of this chapter that I would like to highlight can be seen towards the end of the chapter, with the inclusion of a group work exercise. Group work exercises like these are common throughout our book. They allow students to harness their group working skills, but also act as a way for students to engage in collecting qualitative and quantitative data to build up a bank of notes which can then be used in future essays in their learning.